7.
Okay.
We're live now.
Okay, we will call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We acknowledge a shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Good evening and welcome to the County of Haliburton's Land Division. My name is Liz Danielson and I'll be your chairperson. I'd like to introduce you to the other members of the committee. Tammy McKelvey, Councillor at Large for Minden Hills. Pat Kennedy, Public Member for Dysart et al. And Bob Snyder, Public Member representing Highlands East. We are joined by our planner, Adam Kozlowski, and our official Land Division Secretary, Alana Lacey. This meeting is held through remote electronic participation in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. The purpose of the hearing is to give each applicant or their authorized agent the opportunity to discuss their application with the committee and to respond to written submissions which may have been received. It's also an opportunity for committee members to broaden their understanding of each application by asking questions. Members of the public who are participating virtually today may also make oral submissions to the committee, whether in support or opposition of an application. We do hear the applications in the same order as they were received in our office. Our Secretary Treasurer will introduce each application and our planners will provide planning briefs. Then participants who have registered to address the committee will be admitted virtually to speak with the committee, and each will be provided 5 minutes to speak. With that, we'll now proceed with the agenda for this evening. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as presented? Member Kennedy, Member McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the April 17th, 2023 Land Division Committee agenda be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof today? Hearing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of March the 13th? Member Snyder, Member Kennedy.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the Land Division Committee meeting held March 13th, 2023 be approved as printed and circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. And we'll move into the applications for this evening. The first is an application by Godfrey for a new rural residential lot and lot addition.
Thank you, Madam Chair, to committee. Good evening. I'm having some issues here as well with the applicant and the agent who are trying to get in. So I'm sending them the panelist Zoom link. So what I'll do is I'll do a presentation, and hopefully in that time they can attempt to join.
Okay.
Okay. So for Godfrey, I'm just going to share screen briefly and walk committee through the application. And I trust everybody can see the sketch.
Yep.
Okay, so this application, or sorry, the staff report submitted to committee is actually for 2 applications on the same subject property. The first application is for H5422, and it's over here highlighted in red. And this is a proposed rural residential lot to be severed. This property has an area of 4.94 acres, and it has 295 feet of frontage on Highway 118 and about 130 feet of frontage on Fry Lane, which is a private road. The development on the proposed severed lot would be fronted onto the highway, so it would require a highway entrance. There's no proposal to come off of Fry for that property. The MTO was circulated and they had no objection or concerns with this stretch of the highway. The applicant will be required to obtain an entrance permit from the ministry at the time of development. And sorry, I'm getting some emails here. So as part of the requirement to sever this property, the applicant did submit a scoped environmental study. And that environmental study did identify wetland features basically in the north end of the property, which are to be protected. There are 100-foot buffers to that feature. And this dashed line here is the 300-meter septic setback to Maple Lake, which is an at-capacity lake trout lake. So there is a fairly large area in here that would provide a suitable building envelope that's outside of 300 meters for buildings and more specifically for septic setbacks. Just while I'm on the topic of the environmental study, so this one was peer reviewed, and Greer Galloway did provide peer review comments. Sorry, committee, I'm thinking of another application, disregard. So I'll stop share. And I see that Mr. Godfrey is in attendance. Sue Harrison and Al Shaw had, Sue is here. And I think we're just waiting on Al Shaw. I did send an updated link. Perhaps we can have Sue attend or let Sue speak.
Okay, so you're going to deal with these separately, even though they're the same item. Okay.
Yeah. So, Madam Chair, what I'll do. So we've covered 54, which is the new severed lot, and perhaps Sue can speak to that. And then what we'll do is we'll handle that application through a resolution, and then we'll move on to 55, which is the lot addition.
Before you speak, Sue, I just want to ask the committee members if they have any questions based on what they've heard from Adam so far. Okay. Go ahead, Sue, if you'd like to speak.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. I apologize. I didn't have the privy to what Adam actually went over, so I'm assuming he kind of went through the staff report, what the basics of what's being requested. Is that what you covered, Adam, or?
Yes, that's.
Can they see me? I don't know why. I think so.
We simply heard about the severed lot for the new rural residential development.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess at the risk of in here, I would just add that we are proposing a 2-hectare lot. It's at the east end of the property. It conforms with the frontage and area minimum requirements for the rural zone, and it would be proposed for a single detached dwelling in the future. We have no development proposal at this time. We have been in contact with Ministry of Transportation. They went out and did a site visit. They've agreed on an entrance, but they won't, of course, issue a permit until the consent is heard. So I think we have all our ducks in a row there. In terms of the studies that were required, we did an environmental impact study, which was done by Riverstone, and hopefully Al will be joining us shortly. We also did a planning justification report, which concluded that the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, that it is conforms with the county OP and conforms with the township OP. So we went to Algonquin Highlands Council in September of last year and obtained approval in principle for that application. There were 9 conditions that were recommended. Most of them were fairly standard, but there were 3 that I just wanted to point out to the committee. The first is to require a site plan for the severed parcel, because this is within 300 meters of Maple Lake, which is a lake trout lake at capacity. We need to establish in the site plan that there's a buildable envelope beyond that 300-meter setback. So we will have to prepare a site plan. The second thing we would have to prepare is a severance agreement. There are recommendations from the environmental impact study and the addendum to that report. And the severance agreement would include those recommendations in the severance agreement. And the third thing that would be required is a rezone. Mr. Godfrey wishes to put a workshop on the property with accessory use as outdoor boat storage. That is in an area that is already cleared and already has an approved entrance onto Highway 118. No additional natural vegetation would be removed. And there's quite a big buffer of trees and natural vegetation between where he's proposing to rezone to a rural exception zone. We have been in contact with Sean O'Callaghan at Algonquin Highlands about the rezone, just to be sure we all agree on how it would be rezoned. This property, this lot addition, is being added to 1124 Fry Lane, which is a small shoreline residential property. And no change that to that property is proposed. It's already developed for shoreline residential and has been for years. The back part, the lot addition, the rezone would be focused on Highway 118. And as I said, it's an area that's already cleared. We would also propose to rezone as an outcome of completing the environmental impact statement. Wetlands and intermittent water courses were identified, and it was recommended in that report that we protect those lands, and Sean would like them, has recommended they be rezoned to environmental protection 2 zone. So those newly identified wetlands would be better protected than they currently are now. And the remainder of the lot would remain shoreline residential for the cottage lot, and the remainder would just be a rural zone. I think that's everything I'd like to say on that, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the committee? So in essence, there's going to be multiple zoning if this parcel is being added to the waterfront residential lot. It sounds to me like there'll be 3 different zones on that one parcel of land. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. I think Sue went ahead a little bit. She went into the lot addition, but I can bring that sketch up on screen if everyone would like. While Sue's doing the explanation, is that?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, I think what I was going to go into this one next, but as committee's aware, it's this large green acreage here that's going to be added to this shoreline lot, and the zoning that Sue was mentioning. I believe the shoreline lot's going to maintain the same shoreline residential zone. A portion of the property back here will be zoned for the boat storage and the workshop, and the balance of the lot is rural, and then there will be lands added to EP or hazard, whatever it is, based on the Riverstone identification of those features. So there's property right now on this lot that should be EP, but it's not, and it will be protected as a result of Riverstone's field investigation. So the property will have multiple zones.
Could you tell me where on the large retained parcel the boat storage is actually going to be?
So through you, Madam Chair, and Sue can jump in at any time here. The entrance on 118 was just before the curve here. So I'm just going to try to find an air photo.
If I may, sorry.
If everyone can see this air photo from our GIS, this is the entrance here that's been upgraded to commercial status. The ministry has already signed off on that previously. And this area here, I think the highway was using this area to store. No.
Whoever's got the clock, if they could put themselves on mute.
Yeah, I thought.
Okay. This area is where the clearing is, and the boat storage, I believe, is in here. Sue, if you have
Right.
anything to add.
Yes, correct. I shouldn't be having to deal with zoning. Yeah, but thank you for the air photo. That definitely shows the clearing and where the boat storage and the workshop would be. And any development will then have to also respect, because along that, when Al shows if you look at the site evaluation report on page 29, it shows the results of the site environmental impact study, and it shows where the wetlands are and the water courses, and it shows the buffer. And so any zoning that we do will have to respect those buffers and the newly environmental protection zoned properties. They're mostly in the northeast third of the property and the south and run along the south west, or sorry, along the full area of the west end of the property. The map from the environmental protection study really explains it best. But I mean, I didn't want to get too much into the zoning here because this isn't the zoning application, but we're trying to convey that we have been working with the township. We have been working on the recommendations from Sean, and we will fully intend to incorporate the recommendations of the environmental impact study. So all of those things will go into the final zoning lines and exactly where they go.
Actually, go ahead, Adam.
No, Madam Chair, through you to the committee, Al Shaw, who authored the environmental study, is now online with us.
Okay, perfect.
The reason I asked the question was that the photograph showed two cleared areas, and it was hard to determine, exactly where those cleared areas were. And it looks like they're closer together than I had imagined. To be perfectly honest, I had hoped that the boat storage would be further back from the highway. I'm so tired of looking at blue plastic in an area that's supposed to be environmentally sensitive and eco-friendly. And, everywhere I go, I see fields of blue plastic, and I find it offensive, although it's got nothing to do with this actual part of the application. Sorry. I wish they made camouflage plastic to cover boats.
That might be your $1 million idea.
Yeah. Member McKelvey.
Thank you. The Fry Lane, it looks like the lakefront lot's going to be added to this large parcel, but there's a roadway that runs in between it. Like, who owns that?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think Mr. Godfrey maybe can take that question.
Hi,
Go ahead, Mr. Godfrey.
I own it. So it is part of the acreage. So there's an easement that the other cottages have that they're allowed to use that road, but it is part of the parcel that we're talking about. Does that make sense? And as far as the plastic, boats are stored in the winter. I'll use white plastic.
All right. Well, it'd be nice. It doesn't look like, I know that Sue, you had mentioned that there was a bit of a buffer, and it doesn't look like there's really much of a buffer between the highway and where the boat storage would be. But yes, something other than blue could be a good start for winter storage.
If I, through you, Madam Chair, if I might just clarify, there is a buffer, like a solid buffer of natural vegetation and trees between what's proposed and the shoreline residential uses, and also to the west. But it has, I agree, been cleared, and there isn't much of a buffer to the highway.
Go ahead, Adam.
Well, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, I was just going to, based on my previous experience, the boat storage will be subject to site plan control at the local level, and that's buffering along the property line and between the highway and the boat storage is definitely something that Algonquin Highlands Council can explore with the applicant.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions about either one of these two applications? Member McKelvey?
Sorry.
Okay.
In one of the reports, it makes reference to Minden Hill zoning bylaw and official plan compliance. So I'm assuming it's a typo, and they have made sure that this was Algonquin Highlands zoning bylaw and official plan they were checking. And
Yeah, that's a typo. Yep.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Godfrey?
One more thing just to bring to people's attention is the properties 1124 and the acreage, they are separate now because they were one in my wife's name and one in my name, and she passed. So I've been waiting to put them both into my name. And once you do that in Canada, they absorb into each other anyway. So just to keep that in mind, they will be both going into my name.
Thank you for that clarification. And I know that from time to time that happens in a way that people don't intend for them to be combined, and then they have to be severed again. Okay,
So,
are there any?
Can I just finish one last thing? Sorry, is the reason for the commercial is because I was told by Algonquin Highlands I'm not able to do, but like I'm retiring next year and I wanted to do boat storage as a passive income. I was told by Sean at Algonquin that I can only do that if I join the acreage to the house, because then he can give me a portion of the land to be commercial, not the whole thing. And I don't want the whole thing. I just want a piece to do the storage. So this is why it has to be commercial for a piece.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, just to add, there is a condition of consent that requires the back acreage to merge with the shoreline lot in order for this this proposal to move forward.
Thank you. Ms. Harrison, you wanted to make further comment?
I not trying to correct, I just would clarify that the zoning that we have commercial zone.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
Well, if we have no further questions, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the first application for consent 5422? And that we grant provisional approval of that application. Yeah, members Kennedy and McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton receive the report related to applications for consent H05422 and H05522 Godfroy, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent 05422 Godfroy, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report.
And if you could take the votes individually.
Of course. Member McKelvey?
Yes.
Yay. Member Snyder?
Yay.
Member Kennedy?
Yay.
Chair Danielson?
Yay. That's
Thank you.
carried. Thank you.
Yep.
Uh,
And
Go ahead.
sorry, Madam Chair, just for Sue and Al, if you can just stay in the panelist pool. I think if you leave or if you're removed, that'll be it. You won't be able to get back in. So if,
Okay.
you could just hang tight for the next application.
Okay.
Well, and I mean, we've covered basically your report on the second application and most of the details, but I would ask Mr. Shaw if you had any comments that you wanted to make.
Wonder if you can hear.
Oh, I see he's trying to connect.
You're still on mute. There you go.
I am back.
All right.
It froze for a second there. I started to hear Adam discuss something for myself and Sue, and then I froze.
So we're looking at the secondary portion of the
All
application.
right, everybody's got to get off.
I think
Well, it
I
doesn't
think
sound like they're.
I think he's kicking everybody off the PlayStation.
I apologize. I just had everybody shut off the internet everywhere around the house. So hopefully this holds.
We'll see if we can't get you better service at some point in time. So, Mr. Shaw, did you wish to make comments about the application for the boat storage parcel? Or either parcel? There you are.
I'm here. I from all that I heard, I think it's been well discussed and very well characterized. The words that Ms. Harrison put in regarding the environmental study and the results of it were absolutely correct. We did identify some wetlands and a couple of small creeks, put buffers on them, and those will be protected now as they weren't identified previously. So that's really all I had to say, was that certainly we support the information that we put in and the proposal that's before you.
Thank you. So then could I have a mover and a seconder to receive this secondary application and grant provisional approval? Member Snyder, seconded by Member Kennedy. Thank you.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to applications for consent H05422 and H05522 Godfroy, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H05522 Godfroy, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
Yay.
Member Snyder?
Yay.
Member Kennedy?
Yay.
Member Nielsen? Or, sorry, Chair Danielson?
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to hearing more about your development in Algonquin Highlands.
Thank you for your time.
And so just to Sue and Al, if you can just hang tight on the line, and we'll bring you in for the other application. Or for Al anyway. Sorry, Sue.
I was like, what other application?
Did I miss something?
I hope not.
Thank you.
There.
Okay, so our next application is by Cox for a new rural lot. If you could review that application, please, Adam.
Sure. And through you, Madam Chair, I'm just bringing in Chris Bishop, who's the agent for the application, and I will walk committee very briefly through the materials. The application, I trust everyone can see the map.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So this application is to sever a large rural acreage from the balance of the retained lands, which will be vacant. So what we're looking at here is the severed lot, which is highlighted in pink, will have 82.4 acres of land area. It'll have 328 feet of frontage on Bethel, and then it'll have 772 feet of frontage on County Road 21. The hydro corridor does bisect these properties. There's no proposed development south of that hydro cut or in proximity to it. All of the development proposed will be up near the road. The severed parcel already has a dwelling and shed and various outbuildings. Retained land is vacant, and the Riverstone did do an environmental impact study on this property to identify natural features. The Riverstone report was peer-reviewed by Greer Galloway, and the Riverstone did respond to the Greer Galloway comments adequately, and staff are satisfied with the responses and with the amended Riverstone sketches that showed additional buffers to the environmental features. Hydro was circulated. They didn't provide comment. The entrance to the severed lot is existing, and there is a new entrance into the retained lot, which was included in the staff report with your photographs. So staff recommend approval of the application subject to the conditions that are listed in the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Bishop is here, as is Mr. Shaw from Riverstone, if there's any questions about the environmental study. Thank you.
Member Snyder, you have a question?
Thank you. On the retained lot, my question relates to the driveway entrance. Are there any setback requirements for the development of the driveway? The sketch shows it basically going through the side yard setback. And if it was outside of the side yard setback, it looked like it will go through the EP zone setback. So my question is a driveway entrance possible through there?
So through you, Madam Chair, basically the way we've designed that lot right now, we're trying to leave enough room to basically have the driveway there and not impact any of the environmental zone along there. So as we push that, the final line, as we survey it out to the road, if we need to tweak it a little bit in order to gain more area as we ground truth, the EP is going to be our limiting factor on the west side. So we went out and did a preliminary survey and believe there's enough room there right now to support a driveway. So we don't foresee any problems, but obviously given the size of the lots, there is a little bit of wiggle room if we needed it in the sort of the 11th hour to make a driveway work.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Member McKelvey?
Just maybe process. I'm just wondering, we did a peer review on this, but we didn't do a peer review on the one before. I didn't know if there's some criteria for, I mean, these people had a lot merged by inadvertence. So there seems to be a lot of a lot of technical details required for this, and they're two separately assessed lots. They're always been two lots, and they got merged because they got put in the same name. And then we've had a lot of engineering reports, and then they've been peer reviewed, and the other ones I see sometimes they don't. So I just wondered what the criteria is.
Through you, Madam Chair. So before I started here, this application kind of predates me, and why it was peer reviewed off the top, I don't know. Since I've started, we've reduced the number of peer reviews by having very I'll call it aggressive pre-consultation. So when an applicant comes in, we pre-consult early and often, and we have dialogue with the environmental consultants to tell them exactly what we're looking for. So we're getting environmental studies that are coming back now that are in keeping with the county's plan and in keeping with best practices, so that the necessity for a peer review is not required. And Al maybe can answer better than I can, but I believe that the local municipal conditions might have included a requirement of a peer review, but I'm going to look at the report quickly while we're talking, and maybe Al can clarify where the need for the peer review came from.
Thanks, Adam. Through you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if that was the case, but for some reason I do have it in my mind that I knew all along that this would eventually be peer reviewed. But I'm not really sure what the impetus for it was, say, compared to the previous application that you all just heard. Especially for an application like this, as you said, Member McKelvey, that it was previously two separate lots and it merged on title just because of a name, as opposed to any lot creation or anything like that. Not only that, the lots are very large. So as Mr. Bishop also said, there's lots of room to wiggle things around if need to be, because the lots are so big. So I don't recall the initial impetus for the peer review, but certainly previously many more were peer reviewed at the county level.
Yeah, and just to add to Al's answer here, I'm just looking at the Minden Hills conditions. I don't see anything here about them requiring a peer review, but their first condition is preparation of a environmental impact study, which addresses the requirements of the township's plan. Again, I don't know exactly why this was sent out for peer review, but Riverstone has responded adequately, so we've scheduled it for the meeting today.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you've got a more rigorous program, in the beginning of an application to try and, reduce the amount of work and cost for the applicants. Mr. Bishop, did you have a comment?
I was just going to add that I have this and one other application at the county right now, and they are the only two that I've had experience with that got peer reviewed prior to the initial meeting. Now, this application is dated back long enough. It kind of got caught in the Charles C. leaving and starting to go through temporary planners. So I think it was just a change of process that triggered the peer review, because previously it used to be a condition of consent that you would collect a payment essentially to start the peer review, and it would happen after the initial meeting. So having peer review before the meeting was a new one on me for this one.
Well, I'm glad you raised the question, Member McKelvey. So any more questions on this application? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the application, grant provisional approval? Member McKelvey, seconded by Member Snyder. Thank you.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent H00922 Cox, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H00922 Cox, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
Yay.
Member Snyder,
Yay.
Member Kennedy,
Yay.
and Chair Danielson.
Yay,
Thank you.
that's carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, committee.
The next application is by Hewitt for a lot addition.
Hey, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just promoting Mr. Hewitt and Mr. Connell, who's the agent, into panelist status. And I'll walk committee briefly through the application. So and I trust everyone can see the screen. Okay.
Yes.
So the subject property is on the east side of Horseshoe Lake, and it consists of what's outlined in red here on Jameson Drive. The address is 1030. And the property is irregular shape. It's got a split shoreline between this portion here and then the main shoreline, which is in front of the cottage. And then it also it contains this backlot area where there is a sleeping cabin and an unserviced cottage back here, which is not connected to any services. And it's my understanding, and Mr. Connell can probably clarify or provide additional info, but this backlot area used to be part of 1031 and it's merged with 1030. So this application is basically restoring the original lot fabric that existed. And so what's going to happen with this application is number 1030 is going to be reduced in area from 3.88 acres down to 0.35 acres, and the shoreline will be maintained here. And then 1031 Jameson Drive is going to receive the backlot area and a little bit of frontage here on the lake. And this lot 1031 will be increased in size from 0.33 acres to 3.85 acres. And basically the two accessory buildings back here will become part of the 1031 land holding. However, there are conditions of consent that these two buildings be brought into compliance with the local zoning bylaw, and that is the cottage be converted into a sleeping cabin, and then the other sleeping cabin be converted into a accessory storage shed. So staff have reviewed the application against the policies. We also have an endorsement from Minden Hills, and staff recommend approval subject to the conditions that are in the staff report. Mr. Hewitt and Mr. Connell are here as well if the committee has any questions. Thank you.
Do either Mr. Hewitt or Mr. Connell wish to add any comments at this time?
And no, we are relying on the planning report that Adams presented.
Okay. Do members of the committee have questions? I must admit, when I first looked at this, I was a little confused about the change in waterfront frontage, but I see it's the switch of this small pie-shaped piece from one to the other property that did that. So I don't have any questions. So if there are no questions, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive this application and grant provisional approval? Member Kennedy, did you have a question or you're moving it?
Moving it.
Okay, seconded by Member McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent H00323 Hewitt, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H00323 Hewitt, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
Yay.
Member Snyder?
Yay.
Member Kennedy?
Yay.
Chair Danielson.
Yay.
Thank you.
So the
Ms. Keir?
application, sorry, yeah, the application's
Aye.
approved, and we'll send out the notice within the next day.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, the next application is by Jin and Tang for a new shoreline lot. Over to you, Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So very briefly on this one, I'll just very quickly go over the staff report recommendation, and that is we did circulate a notice of public hearing for this application. It's for a new shoreline lot on Kawagama Lake. However, when I went out to do the site postings, it wasn't the best day for roads, and I contacted Mr. Jin and asked him if the property was accessible, and he said no, it's not maintained until the end of April. So I did not get out to post the property. So the best recourse at this point is to just defer the application, and I'll have a staff report ready for next meeting. But sorry, just to add, because it was circulated for a public meeting, it's fair to allow anybody who's registered to speak to be able to, and nobody did. There were no registrants to speak to this application.
I have a feeling that when this comes back, there may be someone who wishes to speak to it. We have received some correspondence with respect to this. There seems to be some question about historic right-of-way across this this piece of land that a gentleman from Kawagama Lake is trying to resolve. And he's been in correspondence with both the municipality and the MNRF trying to determine exactly what the status is. So I would hope that we'd hear something about that when this application comes back. So meanwhile, could I have a mover and a seconder to defer this application? Member Snyder, Member Kennedy.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton hold a statutory public meeting for application for consent H00123 Jin Tang in accordance with the notice of public meetings circulated on March 29th, 2023 to hear any comments from the public, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton defer application for consent H00123 Jin Tang pending recirculation and posting of the property in accordance with Section 53 of the Planning Act. Member McKelvey?
Yay.
Member Snyder?
Yay.
Member Kennedy?
Yay.
Chair Danielson?
Yay.
Thank you.
Item is deferred. Next on the agenda is other business. And we're going to receive an update on, it looks like, two files, Tickner and Colpitts.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee, this, I'll just go through it very briefly, but this application was originally approved provisionally by the Land Division Committee back in July, if I'm not mistaken. And we do have a policy where if a severance application comes back and there is variation in the lot area greater than 20%, it requires basically a review by the county, and it also requires recirculation to the local municipality. So that occurred, and the local municipality has no issues in principle with the increased lot size. It turns out there was a right-of-way that wasn't identified, and that's what resulted in those increased lot areas. The local municipality, however, was more concerned with some accessory buildings along the north lot line and whether those accessory buildings were now either on or over the new lot lines. And so we had to basically instruct the landowners to have a surveyor go out and just to verify that. And they have, and that reference plan was attached in the report package. So at this point, staff are comfortable with the increased lot sizes. And we're also comfortable that none of the those accessory structures along the north lot line are encroaching over the lot line. So the staff recommendation is that we approve through resolution the changed lot sizes. And I've spoken with Minden Hills planning staff, and they have no objection. The Colpitts property is going to have to be rezoned anyway as a condition of the original approval. So those accessory buildings, the reduced setbacks to the lot lines will be captured as part of that rezoning and be cleaned up. That's a very quick overview, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if committee has any.
Questions from the committee? Member McKelvey.
So they're not going to have to do another survey to show the building locations on the property. I know that that was a condition that Minden Hills ended up putting on, but perhaps didn't have all the information that they needed. So, and I appreciate, Adam, your efforts in this, because I know there's been quite a bit of emails going back and forth with the agents on this. So.
Through you, Madam Chair, no, they don't have to do any additional survey work. This the survey work that they have provided in the report package is actually, they've captured everything on the property. So we're satisfied that the encroachments don't exist and that we can clean them up through zoning. Originally, when we were talking to the applicant, I had suggested that, you know, in lieu of a full survey, that they just do a surveyor can do a letter indicating that, you know, the shed is X number of meters off the lot line, but they did decide to go with the full survey. And that's excellent, because now we know where everything is and there's no question.
So the resolution then is to receive your report and to endorse the new plan of survey, but we're not approving an application.
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair. So the reference plan, that's it's the second attachment in the report package. That's the reference plan that came in back in December, where the surveyor said it looks like the parcels are actually larger than approved. And that's what triggered us having to go back because of that land division policy we have. So what we're doing is, through resolution, we are approving that December reference plan with the larger lot sizes.
Any questions from the committee? You have a question, Mr. Snyder?
No, I lost my earbuds. I was trying to figure out why I couldn't hear anything.
Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and endorse the new plan of survey? Sorry. I can't stop that. I'm sorry. Any questions? I just, that completely threw me off. Do we have a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Member McKelvey, Member Kennedy, thank you.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton receive the staff update report related to applications for consent H02422 Tickner and H02522 Colpitts, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton hereby endorses the drawing entitled Plan of Survey, part of Lot 7, Concession 12, Geographic Township of Lutterworth, Township of Minden Hills, County of Haliburton, dated December 12th, 2022, and prepared by CT Strongman Surveying Incorporated, as being in substantial conformity with the intent of consent applications H02422 Tickner and H02522 Colpitts. Member McKelvey?
Yes. Yay.
Member Snyder?
Yay.
Member Kennedy?
Yay.
Chair Danielson?
Yay.
Thank you.
That's carried. Thank you. Sorry, when my phone goes off, I can turn the sound off on my phone, but my computer keeps making it like it keeps wanting to tell me, answer your phone. Okay, our next committee meeting is scheduled for May the 8th. And hopefully we will have no Zoom issues.
Any chance we could meet in person?
No.
Yeah, through you, Madam.
A consensus discussion.
That's a It's a
the thing
concise,
about meeting it, go ahead, Adam.
sorry, I was going to say that's a concise answer. No, just that first application committee, I was a little bit, I was trying to do three things at once because I had people emailing me saying they couldn't get in. And I actually had, I don't know if the problem's at our end because I was getting people sending me screenshots saying that they had to upgrade their Zoom to commercial. I don't think that has anything to do with us. So I did send out the same link again that these applicants had already received. And then they were able to log in, but there's like a gremlin in the Zoom system here that it was just not allowing them to join. But I don't know why that happened.
Well, and we've all been, with the exception of Tammy, we've all been part of this committee and Zooming in for ages. And even, even when I finally was able to connect, it asked me for the passcode, which I've never had to do before.
Yeah, and like even when I think of past meetings, it like the last meeting in November that we had was like it went off without a hitch. It just seems like after the new year, the meetings started to get Zoom. It was just I don't know. I don't know enough about the program, but we've just had nothing but problems. I'll talk to IT tomorrow and see if there's something we can do.
Okay. Well, we just we'll all be prepared to sign in or try and sign in just a little bit early for the next meeting, so we've got time to resolve this. At least we started on time, which was great. Any other comments, questions? Tammy?
I just wondered if there'd been any more decisions on the composition of the committee. There was talk about adding somebody.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So we do have a report going in April. In May. We have circulated a notice or an advertisement for members. And once that closes, I believe County Council will review the resumes and make a decision. So that I believe will happen in May. So that new member hopefully will be online by the June meeting. But they are going to require, whoever it is going to require some training and orientation. And I hope that I can take that person out with me on the site visits for the June meeting to kind of give them a crash course on what we look at.
Didn't
There actually was some not so subtle indication at the meeting that an individual is interested. And if that is the case, you won't have to take them on a site visit and give them any orientation. But we'll see. It was just interesting to see someone with an awful lot of experience suggest that they might be interested in the committee.
No, that's good news.
Actually, I shouldn't have responded that way to you, Mr. Kennedy. It just seems like it's so easy. It's in the summertime. It's one thing. In the winter, evening meetings and travel. It's pretty easy. What do you think? How do you think we would benefit from in-person meetings?
Less frustration with Zoom, but if we can correct that, then we'll be all right.
Okay, we'll work on that first and see how we make out. I mean, it is nice in the wintertime to not have to, get in your car and drive, especially, some of the meetings are quite long, but we've had, a couple of meetings that were like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And you need to, drive for an hour. I don't know how long it would take Bob to come over to the county's office, but a lot of time. Okay, so we have nothing left but adjournment. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn, please? Member Kennedy, Member Snyder.
Be it resolved.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry, Lana.
Apologies. Be it resolved that the April 17th, 2023 Land Division Committee meeting be hereby adjourned at 7:59 p.m.
All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
You need to be working for radio. You've got a lovely radio voice.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
There you go. Okay, we'll see you all next
Good night,
month.
all.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Take care. Good night.